And we are back on another edition of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. I am Jonathan Howe. He is Travis Cunningham. And this show is made possible thanks to our friends at Ohsweken Speedway and Bicknell Racing Products, as well as Vansickle Pet Value and Lundy's Lane Pet Value. Be sure to go and get your tickets for Saturday nights at Merrittville. And also pick up a treat for your four-legged best friends as well. Or maybe buy a goldfish or a hamster. Something. Help them out. Support them. Travis, talk to us about. Let's jump right into Ohsweken because you were back on the
Oh,
racetrack on Friday night.
you're
Oh,
forgetting about episode 58.
I forgot. That is right. We are in episode 58. How could I skip right over that? Okay, who you
Because
got
it's a
for
hard one.
58?
Man, right off the top of my head, just an old school 358 guy that was around like when I started. He was always good for a race win a year. Tim Murdoch, 58, and he was like from Georgetown, Ontario. So he was like an oddball kind of guy. He had a pretty far hike, and he ran for quite a bit. 58, Tim Murdoch. I know for sure he won at a big race at Little Valley once, and he'd always grab one at Ransomville or Merrimack or something.
And I think I'm stumped on a 58.
Yeah, it's toughy.
I don't think I've got one.
Oh,
Unless there's.
another old school guy that I didn't
Okay.
want to miss is Merv Treichler. So famous in the dirt world. Dirt Car Hall of Famer, Ransomville. Regular for sure. Won at the Moody Mile, I believe. Big guy. Asphalt and dirt. He would run both. Didn't care. Yeah. Merv Treichler.
Why is this number just like one of those numbers that like is, I don't want to say
Because sometimes they don't
toxic
get
or
ran.
poisonous. There's just some numbers that just are not popular in the slightest. But I can't.
Some don't look good on a car.
Yeah, I guess
That's
58
that one's
doesn't.
kind of big, and like Sandercock said that. That's why his number's on the fender.
Mm-hmm.
57.
It's true.
Right? Because it's 57. He said it looked slow, so he moved it to the wheel well.
I always like 57 as a number. I kind of like that one. But
58.
58,
That's tough.
it's a tough one.
I feel.
I don't got one. So if you've got one out there in the Southern Ontario Dirt Show listenership.
Murph Treichler's the big one. The year of the Batmobile at Syracuse, he tried to like combat that. Like he had a normal looking Gremlin style modified, but he like built the car and ended up looking like a London phone booth. It was a red car with just a super high roof. Yeah.
That's an awesome comparison. I love that.
It did look like a London phone booth, like straight up. I got to show you pictures tomorrow at work.
Yes,
But like the
please
roll cage
do.
is down here and the roof is way up here.
Yeah, please do. That sounds actually
Yeah.
very entertaining. Okay, now can we jump into Friday night
Yes.
Ohsweken? Because I've admitted defeat because I don't have one that's coming to me automatically. So, Ohsweken, the day before Canada Day, June 30th. Talk to us about. Let's talk about your race first because you had an interesting night.
Yeah, it was definitely a little interesting. The best part of the night was like the track was back to like normal old Ohsweken. Hot laps was hammered down and fast. People were breaking or not breaking track records, but like 13.3, that's really flirting with the track record. You can only break track record in like a time trial setting, just so people know. So even if you break it in hot laps, it doesn't technically count. Because yeah, so they were super low 13s, and yeah, I was in the 13s as well. And then heat race. It was definitely pretty around the top there, which is like old Ohsweken. I started sixth, got lucky. Definitely wanted to be on the outside, passed one car, got to fifth. Started 12th, first lap. I kind of pulled the Stuart Friesen. He likes to diamond corners a lot, if you notice. So I went in high and kind of cut it. And then I thought I was going to go buy a car or two. And then just as it was coming out of four, Liam Martin he just started to spin out. And I caught him with the right side of the car. And I thought about pulling off, and then I said, because I thought something was broken, and I was thinking you should stop and ask or go in, but then I was like, you got to go tail. So I just gassed it up under yellow through 1 and 2 and see if it felt kind of okay. And then I decided, because I knew something was not right. That's it for sure. But I'm like, am I going to make it the whole way? So I decided I was, especially now with the choose rule, I got to choose the bottom every restart. So like I decided just to roll the bottom and like not push it too hard, and ended up getting to 11th. I fell back a bit, but at the end the track got really slick in the feature. That's where I was going with that. Like typical old Ohsweken, heavy at the beginning of the night, but then it threw me for a loop. I was probably a little too loose. Knocking the right rear radius rod off on Liam Martin probably helped me because it made the rear end move a little bit to a tighter position because I didn't have the right rear end far enough for how slick it got. That's it for sure. And yeah, track was awesome. And D-Dubs passed Mike Bowman. Was last lap or second last lap. Good run for Mike too, though.
Mike has been really impressive so far in the 360s. Like, I don't think it's that much of a surprise, but for a guy who's kind of bounced around a lot of different vehicles in the last 3-4 years, like we don't forget it was like what 2021. I know it was the COVID year or kind of
He ran it, yeah.
COVID shortened year, but he won the track championship in their 358 at Merrittville. So pretty sure it was
Yep.
21. So to go from that to 2 years later, now he's in 360 sprints after kind of a year in the crates last year. Mike's doing a pretty good job. And DJ Christie coming off a strong run at the Gary Cunningham Memorial, follows it up with another podium at Ohsweken, finishing third. Ryan Turner fourth, and Mitch Brown rounded out your top five. Should give a shout out to our buddy Nick Sheridan too for a solid sixth place finish. And man,
Yeah, he started way behind me.
it's murderer's row. Like I'm just looking through. I'm like Liam ended up in seventh. Corey Turner was eighth. Darren Dryden in ninth. Holly Porter rounding out the top 10. Like
And then me.
it's a good field. Yeah, you, Eric Gledhill right behind you, Alan Downey.
That's tough sledding.
Wow.
I thought my heat was loaded Friday, and then I checked the other heats, and I go, okay, wait.
Yeah.
Every heat. It's pretty tough.
It is an impressive field of 360 cars every
There's
Friday.
at least 20 cars that could probably win if the night goes their way.
Yeah, Josh Hansen gets a DNF. He's another guy who probably could have won.
Yeah.
So
I know. The Ohsweken posse. That's us.
It's wild. It's good stuff, though.
Yeah.
And you can catch it all on GeForce as well, even the rebroadcasts of it, like me. Sometimes I'm busy on a Friday night, miss out on the race. I get to go back and watch it and catch up on it. So catching up on the Strickland's Crate Sprints, Mac Demand picks up the win over Jesse Costa, Brett Stratford, Curtis Gartley, and Lance Erskine.
Yeah. Stratford looked like he was going to win that one. I was like, it's finally happening. It's going to happen. It's happening. I noticed McDeman coming up as well, but then Costa was also there. But then, on the one restart, I noticed his wing fell down. And I went and looked. I figured it was the aluminum straps that we run on the front that break, because I've had trouble with stuff like that breaking. When I first started sprint cars in the 71 car, we threw the nose wing every second week till we finally were like, Eric, we got to find a new way. This is clearly inconvenient. But anyway, it was actually the tab on the chassis that broke. And Brett said when he got in the wall the week before, he straightened it. So tough. That's hard. Man, that shows the pressure on the front wings. And the track was still really good, but there was still a ripple or two. But that's just typical Ohsweken. So if you hit the ripple the wrong way, the car can bounce, and something or a piece of mud broke that or something. But the tab sheared off.
Yeah, pretty wild, eh?
No welds or nothing, just the tab sheared off at the drilled hole for the aluminum strap that goes up to the front wing. Wild.
Crazy. Yeah. Anybody who thinks that the speeds aren't that high at a dirt track, you are sadly mistaken. Yeah. Over in the HRW Automotive Mini Stocks, Fabio Oliveri picks up the win after starting second. Wade Thorne comes home second. Ashton Dickey third, which I want to give a shout out to Ashton Dickey. I don't know if you saw it on social media, Travis, but I'm pretty sure they had 1A sporting one of our Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast stickers. So I appreciate him.
I sold him 5. I finally made a sale. I made a sale.
There you go. Well, they're on the car, and we appreciate it.
We got to catch up with Caleb Dick still. I owe him 5 stickers. I think I owe Bailey Hurd 5 stickers.
Okay.
He didn't have cash when he wanted them. I'm like, hey, you got to get the cash, bud.
Okay. Gotta buy him for me. I'm pretty sure Beaver gave me one, and he still hasn't given me a 5 for it, so that's okay. Am I calling out Beaver? That's okay. I owe him a couple of videos on the BRP iRacing side of things too, so we'll catch up on that. Well, we'll get it all sorted out. Tristan De Silva brings home fourth, and Jeff Elslinger ends up fifth. So I've loved the parity at in the mini stocks over at Ohsweken. There's a lot of names that kind of keep interchanging throughout the field. There's guys who kind of are the consistent front runners, but every time I see a name in the line, I'm like, oh, that guy's gonna do good. That one's gonna do. That guy's gonna move through the field well. It doesn't always happen. So the mini stock's pretty entertaining at Ohsweken.
If there's one thing that's been a consistent at Ohsweken Speedway, other divisions car counts have fluctuated throughout the years, but one that never has is the mini stocks. They always have a ton of cars, and like you say, because I'm busy. Ohsweken's the one track I'm busy racing at, so I hardly pay attention to the other divisions. I'll admit I struggle at some of the. I'm not as up to on the mini stocks at Ohsweken as I am at a Merrittville or Humberstone.
It's hard, right? Sometimes you got to get your pre-race naps in. We know.
Oh yeah, I do have a pre-race nap every now and then, especially if I'm starting
Somebody
up front.
Yeah. Moving over to Saturday night where Pete Bicknell was not napping in the Corpac Merchandising 358s. He was on it from the start of that one and drove off with the win from fifth place over Freddie Carlton, Scott Wood, Brad Rouse, and Shane Pierce, rounding out the top five there in the 358s. But the 358s were not the headliner of the night, and honestly, I don't even know if they were really the story of the night. And besides Derek Van Mills' wild trip in a I think it was heat number one. Yeah, it was heat number one where he and Tom Neal got together, and Derek basically did I'm gonna say barrel roll into a pirouette and then landed back on all fours. So hopefully Derek's not feeling too bad this week, and that Too Cool will be back out on the racetrack soon because that was a crazy incident to see. But beyond that, I would say the story of the night had to be the Sportsman, and we got another classic battle between Cody McPherson and James Friesen. Uh, Two guys who are just like they are we saying they're probably the best of the best when it comes to sportsmen at Merrittville, right?
Uh, right now you'd have to say that, yeah. I guess don't want to make anybody else mad. There's lots of other people that can win, but
Yeah, I mean Sharp's a great threat every week. Nelson Mason's
yeah.
been kind of coming together
But
with
like
some
Cody and
consistency.
JMF, they've been there for so long nowadays.
Yeah,
Them two
right.
make me feel old.
And I would say the other one that was missing from the night as a whole was Heavy Chevy Chashveli, not out on Saturday nights, but he's always a guy who, yeah, you have to reckon with on a
But like,
Saturday night. Excuse me,
there
at
was tons
Merrittville.
of cars in Sportsman, right? Like I saw some
Yeah,
people from pretty far away, like one from PA.
well,
Noticed
we had
that
a
on my race pass.
we had a Western Tour region event for the DIRTcar series. So one of our past guests, DIRTcar Dean, got to hang out with him a little bit in the booth. He was up
Oh, I was looking
with
forward to seeing
race.
him Sunday.
Yeah, he was up with race director Doug Leonard, and we're kind of hanging out, monitoring everything. And yeah, it ended up being a 31 car field. Don Speece, track
Dang.
owner, said, "You know what? I'm gonna start them all," and that's basically what happened. So it got hairy at points. There were
There was
definitely
carnage in
some
that race
interesting
too.
moments. Yep.
It
Paul
rained before the
Gabori.
race, which I would say probably caused most of this carnage because the track was a little heavier than normal.
Okay, you know what? That's a great point. Let's talk about that. There was rain right up until about I'm going to say what 4:30, 5 o'clock
Which is nothing the
before.
track can do about. I'm not
Yeah,
saying anything like
exactly.
that.
And we worked it in. The grader was out. We did everything that we possibly could do to get that track ready, and it ultimately ended up being a great racing night, I thought. But just in terms of one from a driver's perspective, what do you know? What do you mean? What does it mean when you have rain right before a race? What are you expecting as a driver when that happens?
You're just expecting to go through more tear offs. So you're probably throwing, instead of a 10, maybe a 20 pack on there just in case. Because sometimes, like back in my day, like when I ran modifieds, like a lot of times in the heat race, like if you were starting third row, like it was two tear offs before you got to turn one. Like as soon as you hit the gas, a full blown one, and bah, and then another one, bah. But that's number one. Lots of tear offs. And yeah, the track's always going to hold more bite because if it gets that moisture right before the sun goes down, or
Hmm.
like you know what I mean, a lot closer to that time, it's definitely going to hold a lot more. And just Merrittville, the way it gets tight off turn four, and when the track gets a little heavier, like the lane just stays a little bit more narrow, and guys are a little bit more on each other, and it makes the guys that maybe struggle on a slick track that much faster because you can just lay into the gas a little more. And yeah, sometimes it causes a little bit of carnage, which we did have a bit of carnage on
Definitely had
Saturday.
some
We did
carnage, but
yeah,
we also had some really great racing and
good racing.
really fast lap
Leads to
times.
both.
Like I mentioned, Pete in Victory Lane. Pete
Also leads
said
to
that
that.
he kind of thought that there was some track records. Not again, it wasn't a timed hot lap session, so we couldn't see that as an official breaking of a track record. But he kind of thought all the divisions were so fast; it was kind of approaching track record levels, and it sure seemed like it from the booth. But back to those sportsmen, back to that duel. Friesen was hunting McPherson for most of that race. Would catch him, wouldn't be able to make the move. They'd swap lanes. Cody would go up to the top side to kind of cover things off, and then he would go back to the bottom to cover things off. Friesen was trying everything he could. And the other thing that happened is we got something that we don't typically see at Merrittville on a night where there isn't that kind of moisture is we got a real cushion that developed for the sportsman event. As like I say, the sportsman 40 laps, they were the final race of the night, and there was a solid cushion, especially in 3 and 4. And eventually, like Cody went up to the top to try to cover off Friesen because Friesen usually runs it up there. Cody made a slight bobble, I think, trying to stay off the cushion. That opened the door. That kind of was what led to Friesen getting past McPherson for the lead. But JMF coming to the checkered with like literally final corners 3 and 4, swings it around the high side. We know, I've said it countless times on this podcast, JMF is the master of running the high line through 3 and 4 at Merrittville, and it just reached out and bit him just enough for Cody to dive to the inside in the final corner and retake the lead coming to the checker. It was a heartbreaking thing. It was also Bobcat of Hamilton night, so I know Friesen was pretty bummed out to kind of blow that one, I guess, in his viewpoint. But it was such a good race still by two of the best in the business. So all in all, great race. Yes, there was carnage. There was some fists thrown at one point. I'm not sure what exactly happened. Oh yeah, I'm not sure
What?
what exactly happened to cause this, but I think it was between Rob Pitts and Curtis Friesen. Curtis Friesen
Oh
ended up in
yeah.
the infield, kind of in the
Oh
go
boy.
kart track, parked, and there was a red flag when a separate incident. Paul Gabori and Jay Mallory come together, and Jay Mallory ends up going kind of like a soft roll onto his side. I'm sure it was still a kind of freaky incident. There was a ton of damage to Paul's car. So not I didn't see exactly what started it. I just kind of saw Mallory kind of tip over, and I was like, oh, that's weird. But under that red flag situation, while they were working on Mallory's car, Curtis Friesen jumps out of his car, runs up to Pitts, and starts like yelling at him through the window. It almost looked like maybe might have been some punches thrown, or like maybe like a tap on the helmet, or like something. I was like, what are you? Yeah.
Still on the
Oh
track?
yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
right?
it's legal
So,
then.
it was it was pretty wild stuff. I don't think it was a full-on fist fight or anything like that. I don't think there was like a level of assault, but it was definitely like a
No, we've seen that
yeah,
stuff
it was definitely a
before.
man conversation on the front stretch, but whatever was said, yeah, right in front
On
of
the
the
front
fans. Oh,
stretch.
the fans loved it. It was great. So, uh, yeah,
Good God. What a
yeah,
night to miss for
yeah,
me.
it
Not
was something else.
not that I like Rex or anything, but that seems
Something else, man. It was
pretty
something else.
entertaining.
So, anyways, Cody McPherson gets the win in the Western Tour race, which I believe that now is his second win of the tour, and that might be the only two events that have happened on the tour, if I'm not mistaken, at least for the Western region. If you want to catch up on that, DIRTcar.com is the best place to go for that info, as Cody's trying to win back-to-back Mr. Super Dirt titles, right? So I
Yep.
want to give a shout out to the Hoosier Stocks. Another fantastic race for them. Kyle Pellrine. Apologies first and foremost to Kyle because we did not. We had some technical difficulties in Victory Lane, so we didn't get his interview up. So that was kind of a bummer. But as far as being up on social media, anyways, but he had to work for it. I mean, he started second, led most of the race, coming to the stripe. Zach Bleach gets to his outside. It's a full-on drag race to the finish, and I think Kyle got him by a nose, maybe a front fender. I think the total time was a tenth of a second. No, not even. I think it was less than a tenth of a second. I think it was like 800ths of a second separated them at the line. You can go back and check that officially on Race Monitor, but over Zach
Over
Bleach,
Zach Bleach?
who was coming off a win
What?
in the novice sportsman series on Friday night at Ransomville.
Sportsman at Ranceville.
So
Yeah, I
Zach
was
had
pumped
himself
for
a nice
that.
little weekend.
But yeah, he hasn't won one. So Kyle
Yeah, it
snagged
was
one
a
from
heck of a
Zach.
finish. Ken Sargent was third in that one. Pete Reed fourth from 11th, and Jim Lampman fifth. And for everybody who thought, Dave Bailey is going to be the dominant driver once again in the Hoosier Stocks, we haven't been talking about him winning lately. The love is going around in that series now all of a sudden because,
If it was heavy,
yeah,
he's better in the slick overall. Like he has
hmm
one in the heavy stuff too. I'm not saying he hasn't won in it, but
yeah.
he's the best Dave
Well,
Bailey
he still
when it's
gained
dirty
5
slick.
spots and went from 15th to 10th. So, I mean, handicapping is definitely not helping
Yeah.
him out much at all. And I think he even kind of struggled in his heats, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he ended up fourth in his heat. So I think top 3 went to the redraw or something like that. So, yeah, in the let's move on to the let's talk about the vintage cars, because that was another great finish, similar to Ohsweken the night before, which I think I forgot to actually mention that the vintage cars were at Ohsweken. So Josh Powers won it Friday night at Ohsweken, and on Saturday night at Merrittville, he almost stole it away from Jason Riddle, who I was kind of watching through the field more than anything. But Riddle started second, jumped out to the lead in this 9J car out of Cardinal, Ontario. And I was like, oh, he's gone. Like, it's over. I don't think anybody's catching this guy. And then all of a sudden, with 2 laps to go, I realized that like the 73 of Powers is like on his tail, and I'm like, oh, this just got interesting. And I was like, oh wow, we have got one heck of a close race happening here, and it turned out to be great. But Jason Riddle, technically the overall winner, he holds off Josh Powers by that one was a tenth of a second separating those two. And I want to give a shout out to our pal Flash Gord, ended up fourth.
Where do you end up?
Yeah, another solid run for him.
Yeah.
And so if you weren't familiar with how the vintage cars were running, I think there was a total of 24 cars made it out to the call.
There was some serious, even at
Great car
Ohsweken Friday
count.
night, we didn't say them, but both nights they had vintage cars,
Split it up into
full
50s and
field.
60s night, or 50s and 60s division, and 70s and 80s. And those two series basically raced against each other in the same race. Greg Hale, Christopher Hale's dad, ended up winning the 50s and 60s era style car event by finishing 10th in the feature. So that was pretty cool. And then rounding out the racing action from Saturday night, Kenny Hare gets the win in the Vansickle Valu PV on the lane 4-cylinders over Mason Anderson, who had a great run. Randy Allway ended up third, John Lubeck fourth, and Olivier Larocque fifth. And that makes it 6 different winners in 7 events, I believe, for the Vansickle Valu PV on the lane 4-cylinders. Yeah.
Dang.
Lots of parity.
I love it.
We got to catch up with some more mini stock guys for sure. It was a great night of racing. I'm looking forward to getting back to the racetrack. It's almost rejuvenating when you get some really close finishes like that. The folks from Vansickle Pet Valu and PV on the Lane aren't just fans of your favorite 4-legged friends, they are race fans too. That's why Jeff and Rhonda Riley, as well as their staff, have teamed up with Merrittville Speedway to make your race day experience more convenient. Race fans can now pick up tickets for race nights while grabbing the highest quality food, treats, toys, and accessories for their pets from the St. Catharines and Niagara Falls locations. Each grandstand ticket will also have a voucher that can be used in-store for a free pet bath at their dog wash stations. Drivers and crew members can also skip the line by purchasing pit passes in-store, giving them more time to get their rides ready for Saturday nights. Check out Vansickle Pet Valu across from Best Buy and Walmart on 4th Avenue in St. Catharines, and PV on the Lane at the corner of Kayla Road and Lundy's Lane, Highway 20.
Yep, I agree. We're going to talk about we should add this in, because the Facebook comment, because we didn't talk about this person in our sportsman recap either. We'll talk about him now. We did talk about his brother, Zach Bleach.
Well, yeah. So I did see a comment under the Merrittville race reports that I've been trying to do, the race recaps, over on our Instagram, and I post them up on Facebook, and I think sometimes Logan, our social media girl, throws them up on TikTok too. But and that's over on at Merrittville Speedway on Instagram for those wondering. But for these race recaps, the idea is for it to be short and quick, like 5 minutes max of me just saying, this is the guy who won. It's a brief talk about what happened, and here's the interview. Like that's all I want. I don't want it to be anything super long. So I saw some people comment like, why didn't you talk about this driver? Why didn't you talk about that driver? Billy Bleach Jr. was one of those drivers that was why didn't you talk about Billy Bleach? I really, the only thing that I had the chance to focus on in those closing laps was Cody and James, because those two were just headed for a classic finish, and we got one in the end. So yeah, give a call to Billy Bleach Jr. for bringing it home third.
Want to know what I noticed the most about Billy Bleach? Looked like it was the first time in a long time he was in a Bicknell chassis.
Is this?
Not a long
Is this
time, but like at least a year.
maybe
Just saying.
maybe that's the magic. So
And to be fair, like on your point, like Billy Bleach has won in Sportsman, and I know Billy Bleach, and like I'm sure
mhm.
he's pumped for third, but he wants to win. Next time Billy Bleach wins, I guarantee you,
Yeah, probably. I
guest.
don't think we haven't had him even on the show. We've had
No,
Joe
we were gonna have him last year, but
of
then
all the
he
bleaches.
couldn't do it. Yeah,
Which
Joe's the only Bleach we've had. He's right. We should have a Bleach. Although he wasn't chirping us, he was chirping you on your
yeah,
Merrittville
yeah, whoever that was that commented there, yeah.
review. But
So, well, Bleach Boys, get it in victory lane, and we'll catch up.
he's gonna win
Exactly,
soon. And then we're gonna have him, one of them,
exactly,
or both at the same
for
time.
sure.
It's coming.
We should probably tee up. The Eldora Million is coming up soon, so I guess how do you handicap this one? Because it's I mean, you got to go Larson as the favorite, but then I think about some of the guys who have been really dominating the 410 sprint car circuit. I mean, how do you go against a guy like David Gravel with all his momentum?
Yeah, it'd be tough to go against Gravel. He's won pretty much everywhere. Usually good at Eldora. Uh, Larson, Brad Sweet, Carson Mazzito. Uh, yeah, those are the ones in my mind that really stick out. Rico Abreu. Uh, like his crew chief right now is Donnie Schott's old crew chief from when he was killing it, winning everything in the world. So that crew chief is now working for Rico, and that's kind of why you've seen Rico being super consistent winning races this year, a lot more than he had been maybe in the years past. So he's one for sure. He always goes good at Eldora. I just think it's crazy that the 410 sprint cars, for the first time ever, they're racing for 1 million to win. So for short track racing, the only cars ever before that happened last year, but the only other time before that had happened in 2002, and it was both in the dirt late model division. Donnie Moran won 2002, I believe it was, and last year it was Jonathan Davenport. So they were the only two short track racers ever that could say they were $1 million men. And yeah, this year the 410 sprint cars get to do it, and it's coming up next week at Eldora. And I'm definitely be tuned in. It's definitely a shop night with the boys, and I'm gonna say a lot of shop nights that night. And there's gonna be pizza flowing or food for the boys, and like more than just my shop, like a lot of shops that night. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like something like that going on.
So it's gonna be
I
next
can't wait.
Wednesday and Thursday, from what I'm reading, and kind of checking out the format for it.
And then it
Yeah,
leads into the
exactly.
King Royal, the Kings for the Outlaws. So and this, but like we've been talking a lot about the high limit. A lot of outlaw guys can't run because they have four. This year, like I've said a few times, like they're allowed 4 races not outlaw that they're allowed to race this year, and that's the first
Mm-hmm.
time ever they're allowed to do that. But because Eldora made these 2 races non-sanctioned, they got to burn 2 here in the tune-up and the Eldora Million. So,
Hmm.
yep,
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how it all plays out. Gonna be available for you to watch on Flow. Flow Racing is gonna have the Eldora Million this year, so July
yep.
12th and 13th. So if we're watching that, I don't know how we're gonna record a podcast next week. So we'll have to work out the scheduling here. We might have to do like a Tuesday show or something.
We'll figure it
And
out.
you said pizza, so I'm there for shop night for sure.
Oh, yeah. You
Oh, we
come
could
here.
do
We
like
could
a
record here
live in
live
person.
recording, but not make it live.
We can
Yeah,
work
yeah.
that out. What we
In
can work
person
that
with
out.
us.
We don't do too many
Yeah.
podcasts where we're in the same room, actually, so that could be interesting. Um, Something that wrapped up
Yep.
while we were recording this, the Super Dirt Car Series from Orange County, and you had eyes on that one while we were talking with our guests and going over what we are going to talk about tonight.
Yeah, this is a rain out feature from earlier in the year, and it was a pretty good race, pretty dusty. This Larry White took the lead early, and then Brett Hearn hasn't been racing much, and new experimental car. He was driving pretty good. That is his home track shop's 20 minutes down the road. I've been there because I bought my first ever Bicknell Racing chassis from Brett Hearn. It wasn't from Brett Hearn, but it was at his shop in Teal. So I wonder what they were doing with it. Steve Poirier actually drove it. But anyway, yeah, he was running good. So that's his home track, Orange County, and then Matt Shepard. I noticed he was coming up, and I was saying to you as we were watching it, waiting for our guest this week to sign on, Jesse Costa. I'm like, oh, Shepard's just waiting. He's just waiting, and sure enough, that's what he did, and he ended up winning. But it definitely was a good run for Brett Hearn. I was saying anybody but Hearn because that's just the way I feel. Like as a race car driver, I do have tons of respect for Brett Hearn because he's like the most corporate dirt car driver you've ever seen. Really, that's why they called him the corporate jet back in the day, especially when he ran the Budweiser 3.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, you go to Super Dirt Week every year, and there'd be tons of Anybody But Hearn shirts, Anybody But Hearn signs. And yeah, he's definitely a figure in the dirt world.
But now you say that just
and
because you want Bicknell chassis to sweep the year.
Correct.
That's what you're cheering for.
Yep, and he's in a teal.
So
I know. I am cheering because Bicknell has come close the last 2 years to sweeping the entire Super Dirt Series. Last year, the only person to not win that was a BRP on Super Dirt Series was LJ Lombardo at Lebanon Valley, and that was in a PMC. And the year before, it took all the way to the very last race, and the corporate jet himself was like his second, third race of the year that he even ran. It was a rubber down race at Charlotte, but he did win it, and he, on the very last night, snagged BRP. In true Brett Hearn fashion.
Gotti. Yeah.
Yep. But this year, still alive. It's still alive this year. BRP every race so far.
Well, let's keep that dream alive. Someone who is familiar with BRP, Matt Williamson, didn't have the night that he wanted at the Super DIRTcar Series event. I believe, did he come home? I think it was 16th.
Well, yeah, because there was tons of cars here. There was supposed to be 3 contis. They went down to 3 tonight because a lot of people didn't show up. But originally there was almost 60 cars that showed up on the night back in, I believe, early June when it rained out initially. So Matt finished 4th in his heat. Usually that's more than enough to get you in, but not that night. So he had to start pulling. The B main won it. Started whatever it was, 20th, you said?
So 20th, moved up to 16th, but yeah.
Yeah, he was up to 14th at one point, but track was, super slick. Definitely not the track surface that when he won at the Centennial Classic, or when he's won other races there. Track was definitely a little bit different tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, some good news came back for the Matt Williamson camp, though, this week that I think we should dive into. After his 358 DIRTcar Series win at Fulton, there was a tire test done there, and obviously the tires have been the talk of both locally and pretty much anywhere that Matt Williamson's going to go. Matt's tires came back from Fulton clean as a whistle. The press release went around, or I guess the press email from DIRTcar Series Director Dean Reynolds went around social media. So you may have seen that if you've been following along on any DIRTcar pages or anything like that. So good news for Matt. Kind of just leaves more clouds and more questions than answers on our local side of things. But yeah.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. If that would have came back bad, but now it came back clean, and exactly what you said. But we're going to get past this eventually. But
yeah, eventually, right? So I would say that maybe Matt's going to return to Merrittville this Saturday, but the 358s are actually off for Hot Tub Heaven Night, and the Action Sprint Tour are going to be joining us on Saturday night at Merrittville Speedway, where I'll be on the call of that one. And speaking of the Action Sprint Tour and crate sprints in general, let's get to our guest this week, Jesse Costa on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show. The Southern Ontario Dirt Show is brought to you by Bicknell Racing Products. The last 40 years plus have seen Bicknell Racing Products grow to be an industry leader for racers and enthusiasts alike. Their St. Catharines location is home to 20,000 square feet of manufacturing and retail space, with a second store in Niagara Falls, New York, and a dealer network that continues to grow day by day to serve Southern Ontario, Western New York, and beyond. Bicknell Racing Products distributes Hoosier tires for much of Eastern Canada, New York, and even parts of Pennsylvania. BRP has everything you could need to keep your car performing at its peak, with genuine parts from the manufacturer. They even have a technical support line committed to helping you with the most up-to-date information and feedback from racers and crew chiefs. Have you ever thought about a career in the automotive or racing industry? Now is your chance to take the leap with Bicknell Racing Products. They are looking for CNC machine operators, welders, and more to join their team this season. Please send all resumes to Dana Curving at BicknellRacingProducts.com. That's DANA CURVIN at BicknellRacingProducts.com. For further information on Bicknell Racing Products and to find a dealer near you, visit BRP online at www.BicknellRacingProducts.com or on Facebook or at twitter.com/BicknellRacing. The Southern Ontario Dirt Show is brought to you by Bicknell Racing Products. The last 40 years plus have seen Bicknell Racing Products grow to be an industry leader for racers and enthusiasts alike. Their St. Catharines location is home to 20,000 square feet of manufacturing and retail space, with a second store in Niagara Falls, New York, and a dealer network that continues to grow day by day to serve Southern Ontario, Western New York, and beyond. Bicknell Racing Products distributes Hoosier tires for much of Eastern Canada, New York, and even parts of Pennsylvania. BRP has everything you could need to keep your car performing at its peak with genuine parts from the manufacturer. They even have a technical support line committed to helping you with the most up-to-date information and feedback from racers and crew chiefs. Have you ever thought about a career in the automotive or racing industry? Now is your chance to take the leap with Bicknell Racing Products. They are looking for CNC machine operators, welders, and more to join their team this season. Please send all resumes to Dana Curving at BicknellRacingProducts.com. That's DANA CURVIN at BicknellRacingProducts.com. For further information on Bicknell Racing Products and to find a dealer near you, visit BRP online at www.BicknellRacingProducts.com or on Facebook or at twitter.com/BicknellRacing. All right, joining us tonight on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show, it is Jesse Costa racing the number 52 in the crate sprints. Jesse, talk to us a little bit about your 2023 so far this year and getting back into the crates.
It's been a little bit of an up and down season this year, but I'm racing for Nathan Ackland this year, so having a lot of fun with that group right now. But we've won a race and junked a car and kind of lost a race that I thought we had in the bag, kind of more or less. So yeah, had a little bit of everything.
Yeah, so go back to the win first and then talk about junking the car night after that, because that's just your typical. I always talk about the highs and lows in racing, and that was another perfect example. So start with the win.
Yeah, I think we started fourth and got out to the lead, and I think Stratford passed me or slid me and kind of let him get away a little bit till we got into lap traffic and reeled him back in and was able to use the lappers and get by him. So yeah, it felt really good to get a win for Nate and get the monkey off my back, because it was a couple of years, I guess, since I've won because of COVID and all that.
That's what I thought.
And yeah, it was really good to get a win right early in the year.
Yep. And then the next week?
Yeah. The next week, we didn't make it through turn 3 in the heat race. So had a newer guy, I don't know if something broke or he just made a mistake, and he shot right up the track in front of me and went over his front end, I believe, and catapulted into the catch fence and almost hung it up at the top of the catch fence. So wrote that car off.
Yeah, that was a big one. So, did you have a frame ready to rock and roll in the shop, or did you have to buy a new one during the week and all that?
So I still had my car from when I was running my own team.
Right.
So it was a roller, so we kind of took that apart and used what we could off the other car. So right now I'm using the chassis that I was running for myself.
That makes sense. And then yeah, that guy, I don't think he didn't really mess up. I just think he just kind of hit the bump wrong that night and just kind of I guess he did mess up because he didn't catch it right, and then
I don't know if he
went
let
straight
off
in. I don't think
kind
so.
of shot up the track. So
that's definitely what happened. It was rough.
Yeah,
I felt bad for you
because
I was pumped for you when you won.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, highs and lows. That's what happens.
And then talk about this week, because you were leading almost. You took the lead from Brett when his wing fell down, and then you were leading and then lost it.
Yeah, we had a really good car, shot out to a quick lead, and then I seen Brett poke his nose right before the first caution came out, so I knew he'd be coming. And again, he slid me and he got away, and then a caution came out, and on the restart we stayed with him, and then I guess his front wing collapsed going into 3, and we got back by him again, and we led till I think lap 4. We were getting through the lappers really good, had a pretty good lead, and caution came out, and I kind of felt like a sitting duck with both Mac and Brett Stratford behind me. So I didn't know what to do on the restart, but I figured one of them was either going to slide me.
Yeah, talk to us about just the overall year so far for the with the Action Sprint Tour, the crate sprints, and everything that's been going on. Because I know at Ohsweken, you guys are doing the double file restarts as well, right? So things are a little bit different for you guys. No, it's just in the 360s?
We're doing the single file still.
Okay, so single file.
I think we'd have a lot of problems with double file restarts with the crate guys.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about, because in general, between both sprint divisions, it's been a chaotic year. So how have you been handling the chaos? Is there any heightened not necessarily anxiety, but do you feel a little heightened in the car, and that the way things have been going, not just for yourself personally, but just seems like throughout the sprint car fields, are you kind of on your toes a little bit more, or are you just trying to tuck that into the back of your head?
Yeah, when you're coming through lap traffic, and there's the guys you can trust out there, but with the crates there are a lot of new guys, and just a big varying difference from driving ability. So you kind of gotta be on your toes and watching the guys when you're lapping them, as more often than not you do have to get on the brakes pretty hard when you're trying to put guys a lap down.
Yeah. It's almost like the 360s doesn't have that as much now because of the crate division.
E-
Like everyone gets all their squirreliness out in the crates. Because back in the 360s days when there was no crates, a lot of time guys would come from like a street stock or a mini stock and they'd be pretty squirrely right
Yeah,
away.
it's one thing I've noticed is the 360s. That's kind of been cleaned up a little bit, and it's all kind of more in the crate division now.
Yeah.
Does that make you want to get back into the 360s now that you've kind of stepped back into the crates? You're like, oh, well, you know what? I could get back up in there.
Well, I'd like to race a 360 again, but we're having a lot of fun with the crates. It's probably the best thing I did for myself, realistically, just with the cost of everything. But one day it would be nice to get back to it. But I got no complaints racing the crates still.
Most people know you because of when we ran 360s together, there wasn't like GeForce TV or nothing, and that's when people really started to learn who you were and all that kind of stuff. And like back in the day, we didn't have that type of coverage. So talk about the 360 foray, how you got into sprint cars, really.
Well, I actually started off on asphalt and micro sprints, and then a 440 micro sprint. And when we switched to the 440, we couldn't race at Wonderland Speedway, which was like 10 minutes from my house because I was too young. So we raced at Grand Bend with that till I was 15, and then started racing on the dirt at Wonderland Speedway. And I just like the dirt way more. So really, originally we were either going TQ midget or street stock because my dad raced at Delaware when I was growing up. So that's where I grew up. And then actually Stephen Goldner, he's a really good friend of mine. I used to race against him, and they quit, and he started helping me on my micro sprint, and they were more sprint car people, and they were going to get back into racing into sprint cars. So we went to Ohsweken with them, and I always kind of wanted to race a sprint car, but didn't go to Ohsweken or anything much, so didn't know much about them. And they got into sprint cars, and we started going with them, and that's the route we decided to go.
So like what kind of car did you buy at first? What was your first car?
We bought a roller for like $3,000 at the Fremont swap meet, and
Yeah.
then we were looking for a motor, and it was like March of that year. It was 2011, and we ended up buying a complete car off Jay Pitts, I think his name was, and I think we bought it for like $8,000 or $8,500. So we were going sprint car racing for like $11,000-$12,000, something like that. We kind of put both cars together and made one decent car out of both.
So that's like that is cheaper than you could go for like even a crate nowadays. Back in 2011.
Oh yeah, the crate motors are they've gone up quite a bit. I think they're around $10,000 like for a sprint car now converted.
Brand new, but yeah. Oof. Yeah.
But at that time there was no crate car, so it was a pretty big jump for us.
Yeah. You did have some pretty good runs though. I remember you ran real good in a wingless race one time. I mean that one really sticks out.
Yeah, we did pretty decent for what we had. More or less towards the end of our 360 career, like we made the World of Outlaw show the one time.
I remember that.
We went down and ran that. That was really cool.
Cool.
So yeah, we were just trying to get top 10s. Basically, was our goal when we were racing 360s.
Yeah, that's my goal now.
So it's a hard class. There's so much talent in it week in and week out, but I feel like that's even made for more talent in the crates. And do you feel, I would say, as one of the top runners in the crates right now, like you're currently sitting in third, I believe it is, third in points over at Ohsweken. Do you feel like as a front runner of that class that crate sprint division has really ended up with some heavy hitters in it?
Yeah, yeah, it does. I mean, the guys at the top of the pile there are really good. Like obviously you got Mac, uh, Brett. He's really good now. And then it seems like every year there's someone that comes out and really surprises you.
Yeah, Murdoch, he's the guy. All these guys coming from TQ midgets are the ones that surprise me because I'm not as up on my TQ midgets anymore. He's wheeling.
Yeah, he really started
Yeah,
doing good at the end of last year, so I knew this year he'd be pretty good. But even like it could be someone you never heard of. Like Nick Sheridan came in like his rookie year and did obviously won the championship.
yeah,
So there's always someone that comes in every year that ends up doing really well.
yeah. That's
Has there been anybody this year that has surprised you?
Um, Sheldon Bender right now he's stepped it up quite a bit. I mean he finished fourth I think the other week, so I'd probably look for him to start doing a lot better. And he doesn't have that many races in them.
all right. So you switched teams. You were driving for Bar Motorsports, and like I know they like to do a lot of their own setup. At least that's what Mac Demand said when we had him on. But and then like, what's the deal with Nathan? Are you allowed to do your own setup, or do you like doing your own setup? Did you like it the way the bars would do their own? How's that?
Yeah, it was pretty much. I was pretty much the driver there. I had some input in it, but they like to do things a certain way, which is fine. But now Nate gives me everything I need, whatever I need. He's got it for me. He'll get it for me, and I got full control of whatever I want to do, which is I like that a
Yeah,
lot.
I like that too.
Does it almost feel like you're almost driving your own car in this way now because you get a little bit more input on how things are done?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's basically like I'm running my own team. Uh, like I have control, like my own team, but racing for Nate, so
Yeah,
it's
and it's
it's
funny
really
because
good.
Mac was almost the other way. He likes the way the bars do everything, and then he just drives it. It's just funny, like the way different drivers are. You know.
Yeah, well, it depends on the night. Depends how bad I mess it up.
Exactly. Me too. Sometimes recently I hate being the crew chief as well. It's like, gosh, driver's great. The crew chief sucks.
It's nobody to blame that way. That's the biggest part of
Yeah,
it. Uh,
that's the problem.
so we've talked a little bit about Ohsweken. What have you got circled on the Action Sprint Tour calendar, and what are your thoughts and feelings on how they've decided to organize the Action Sprint Tour this year with two kind of separate regions and then coming together for one kind of whole championship?
Yeah, I think it's good and bad. It's good for the guys that are out east because they have more races down there, but I think it might be hurting the West series a little bit just because they don't have to come down and race that now. I think you've seen that a little bit. The last race, I think there were 16 or 17 cars, which usually there's, high 20s probably.
Yeah, I did notice that because the SOS race got more than the crates, but in like COVID years when they had to come down, it was always pretty high. But I always find
That's
a lot of
true.
crate guys are only looking for one night a
Yes,
week
yeah.
too.
So now they can stay like Brockville, Cornwall. They
Yeah,
don't have to come down here and race if they don't want to.
yeah.
And then, so what's on the schedule for you? Are you going to be hitting Merrittville this week? What's the plans for your involvement with the Action Sprint Tour?
Yeah, we're gonna go to Merrittville this week. I like Merrittville. It's my favorite track besides Ohsweken. So we're gonna head down there. We did plan on going to Humberstone, but that got rained out.
Yep, not rescheduled. Uh,
Yeah,
have you ever won anywhere other than Ohsweken?
Yeah, I won. I won at Brockville at the Fall Nationals. I think the first COVID year for the bar.
Nice. I'm an Ohsweken only winner. Bummer.
nice.
I know. Gonna break out of it soon.
You got to break out of that. You're going to break out of it soon, Travis.
Well, that's all else we got.
One of these days, one of those short tracks will play into your favor. Uh, well, so I wanted to ask Jesse, uh, in the crate sprints with the rising cost of the crate engines, do you how long do you think until the crate sprints are almost as expensive or as hard to get into as the 360 is, and how long do you think it'll take for that series to kind of catch up and be I don't want to say I don't think it's ever going to be on par. I hope it's never going to be on par because it is a great entry level series. But do you foresee a time where we're talking about, crates being almost as hard to get into as a 360 sprint?
I don't think they'll get up to be that much. Like the difference between running up front in a 360 and a crate's like astronomical. So like you're 60 plus $1,000 for a new stout 360 probably right now or more. So it'd have to climb a lot for that to happen.
Hopefully
I
it just
think
doesn't go the other way and kill the three. It won't kill the 360 because that's the one thing I do love. Like everyone's dying to move up still in 360s. Like a whole bunch of people moved up last year, so they totally do complement each other perfectly. And I'm loving what we got going on right now because you don't have to spend the 60,000.
No, you definitely don't. But it's still
because I have passed $60,000 motors with my little thing that I've got. It's not even that little, but you know what I mean. If it slicks off, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, it helps. It helps when you can build them and all that too, right?
But yeah, I know that's a lot of dough.
It's getting crazy. It's crazy to run any kind of race car at this point, but yeah, I just want everybody to be. I want it as long as the sport stays accessible, right? And then you can not easily jump a ladder, but as long as you can make the right calls to get into the right systems at the right time. That's my biggest thing. Jesse, it's been a blast having you on tonight, and we're looking forward to watching you. I'm going to be on the call for your race this Saturday night, so looking forward to that. We're going to get you out of here with one last question. I'm going to give you one racetrack, one race car to drive out the rest of your life. What's the pick? What's the combination you pick?
That's easy for me. It'd be 410 at Knoxville for the Nationals.
Yep.
Nice.
We've had that quite a bit. Jesse's he listens quite a bit, so I don't think he misses an episode really. So he was
no. I listen while I'm welding away at work.
Nice. Where do you work?
Well,
Steelway. We make big steel structures.
Nice. I knew you were a welder now you mentioned it. Yep.
Well, we appreciate you tuning in and being a part of the show tonight, and I look forward to tracking what you get up to the rest of the year in the crates, and best of luck the rest of 2023.
I just want to give a shout out to Nate. He does so much for the sprint car community, not just myself. So you'd probably be pretty hard pressed to find more than a couple cars that haven't had help by him at some point or another.
Yep.
So just really fortunate to be racing under his team right now.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. We really appreciate his support across the board and everything that guys like him do for keeping racing alive. Thanks for coming on, Jesse. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers. That's Jesse Costa on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show. And the checkered is out on another episode of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show presented by Ohsweken Speedway and Bicknell Racing Products. Like what you hear, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Connect with us on Facebook at Southern Ontario Dirt Show or find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at SODS_pod. Have a question for the show? Email us, southernontariodirtshow@gmail.com. Thanks for supporting local racing in Southern Ontario, and we'll see you at the track.